Hi, welcome to valuationpodcast.com, a podcast and video series about all things related to business and valuation. My name is Melissa Gragg, and I'm a financial mediator and business valuation expert in St. Louis, Missouri. Today, I have the pleasure and privilege of speaking with Kirk Michie in San Diego, California, and he is the founder of Candor Advisors. For more than 30 years, he has worked with entrepreneurs, closely held business owners, and high net worth families to achieve their strategic planning, liquidity, investment, and legacy objectives. Today, we're going to talk about using valuation metrics to strengthen the seller negotiations in M&A or mergers and acquisitions. And I welcome you, Kirk, to the podcast.
Thanks, Melissa. I'm glad to be with you.
Our role in this in any capacity is to protect the seller, is to protect our client, and to provide them with a way that they won't just go through a deal because everybody's like championing it and, singing this is a great thing, or we're already invested in it and there's no way to turn back. But I think the interesting part is we're typically protecting them because some of those conversations, when they're privy to them, like I've had a couple clients that listen to a conversation, if we're on Zoom or we're recording it and keeping track of it, and they've listened to the conversations with the buyers afterwards, and they eliminated buyers immediately. Mm-hmm. And I was like, whoa. Like, what did you hear? Because I just hear us talking about deal terms and things like that. And they hear something very different, and it's very personal, and it's very, judgmental, I feel like, because again, somebody's coming in and critiquing either your cash flow, like what you've done. Oh, you've paid yourself out. Oh, you don't have enough staff. Oh, your management team's not great. You don't have a CEO. You don't have a CFO. You don't have an internal accountant. What? How do you survive? And it's just like, they go from being this, really powerful, presence in the community to going through this process that doesn't feel great. And I don't think it has to be that way in a lot of capacities. And it seems like your structure is, again, in place to get them to a position where they're in the right range. But even at the beginning, when you're looking at market multiples, when you're trying to figure out what the market is telling us, how are you utilizing, are you actually negotiating what the multiple is with this buyer, or are you conceptually trying to understand where they're coming from in their pricing? Or are you just giving them the rubric of which they need to show up? And if they show up, they show up, which is,
Well, first, I'll double click on, how brilliant I think it is that you share, those recordings so that your buyer gets a sense of who it is that's buying their business. Because we do something somewhat similar in that when we get to management meetings, we have a proprietary scoring matrix. We give it to them with no guidance around what the weighted averages are going to be. Our side has the weighted averages on the things that matter most. But when we're in a meeting with a buyer on a Zoom call and our clients are in a meeting with a buyer on a Zoom call, there are things that we're looking for that are very, very different than what the seller is thinking about. And look, if if you're going to marry one of my daughters, I don't get to decide, but I can share with my daughter if she wants my opinion about what I think of her choice, right? So, in this very much the same way, I mean, look, if you've built up a business, you deserve to know something about what the deal people think about your buyer. If you want that information, I think, to your question about how can you use the multiples, strategically, is to essentially, like, let's say we, among really, really smart, sophisticated buyers, price is probably not going to be the issue. Kind of terms, long-term plan, transition plans, maybe one buyer is going to tuck your business into a larger platform company and they're going to lay off your CFO because they already have one, and they really don't need your warehouse manager because they're going to use 3PLs, and they're going to so the legacy of your business is going to change. And we think of legacy as how you're impacting all the lives of the people that work in the company. And so, maybe among a group of buyers that are all roughly the same in terms of price, drilling down a little bit more on what they plan to do with the company. And then we can circle back to the seller, ask them again about their why. Why are you selling the business? Is it just to retire? And what's the next most important thing to you, right? Then we can go back to the buyers and we can say, look, Melissa, we think you're the right buyer for this business. Understand that there's another bidder that's probably a shade higher in terms of valuation, but here's what my client wants to make sure happens. Mm-hmm. And then you can put that into your letter of intent. And maybe it's maybe it's something that wouldn't normally go into a letter of intent, but the buyer wants to signal to my client, the seller, that we're going to honor your wishes for what you hope to do with this business, right? And so you can, even once you've kind of nailed or capped out on price, the LOI can capture the terms of what's most important to the seller to help one buyer differentiate from another. That's how we do it anyway.
Yeah.